I think we can start now. Now it's 2 o'clock. Shall we start?
Yes. Okay, you can.
Whether my voice is audible?
Yes.
Okay. So, Odisha was supposed to join, but yes. So, good afternoon to all. Good morning to our guest speaker, Dr. Santipriya Parida. And hello. We will our today's webinar. We will give will arrange a series of webinar talk by Institute of Mathematics and Applications. Today we have with us our guest speaker, Dr. Santipriya Parida. And now I would like to introduce the guest. So Dr. Parida is currently working as a postdoctoral researcher at UDF Research Institute, Switzerland. His current research includes natural language processing, particularly text summarization, topic detection, language detection, fake news detection, child grooming detection, machine translation, and corpus development for low research Indian languages. He has obtained his postdoc in machine translation from Charles University and MTech and PhD, both in computer science from Uttar University. Before his postdoc, he is also having several years of experience as a system architect in UI Technology Limited. He is an honorary committee member for workshop on Asian translation that is WAT 2020 and 2021. He is also co-organizer of WAT 2019 multimodal translation task English and English machine translation task of 2020 and today he will deliver a talk on deep learning approach for natural language processing. Now I request Dr. Santipriya Parida to start his session, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I hope my voice is audible to all. So if any issue, maybe you can raise. And so I think I have 2 hours. So I'll try to. First, let me share my screen. So, is my screen is visible? Anybody can confirm?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay, thank you. So, the topic of the talk is about deep learning approaches for natural language processing. So, before going to the presentation, I think already explained. So, I'll just talk few lines about the institution. So, and where I'm working. For example, means this is the institute where currently I'm working as a postdoc, EDF Research Institute. So it's a purely research institute affiliated to EPFL, and mostly we do in machine learning and artificial intelligence, robotics, natural language processing, speech processing. So all the related activities we do here, and also it has like we do both, like some students come for PhD or internship or postdoc or in sabbatical, and also we do a lot of project in collaboration with many of the companies. So I'd say I can call it a small research institute, means a particularly dedicated institute. So if anybody is interested, they can go more details from EDF site, and for various positions or internship, if anybody is interested, can go through it and apply. Also, there will be sometimes we organize some challenges, like now there is some ICC challenges going on where people have different ideas in machine learnings or artificial intelligence. They can participate and they can compete. So more details can be found in EDF site. So let me go to the agenda. So the agenda of the talk is about well, mostly, as I know, this is many people they are interested for doing this NLP courses. Some students are there, and I don't know exactly the all of the participants' background. So I'll try to make the talk little bit high level, and if somebody is interested, maybe they can go through the details of our reference papers, and also they can ask some queries at the end, or they can mail me, no problem. So mostly I'll focus on the deep learning methods which are applied in natural language processing, and some of the case studies I'll cover about machine translation, text summarization, language detection, fake news detection, operant motive classification, or crime investigation. So these are the some of the case studies I just try to highlight. Uh, I hope I can able to cover within the limited time. So I think all of you have some idea about what is natural language processing. When we call, mostly it try to help the computer communicate with human in their own language, because now everybody in day-to-day life mostly you have used like either some machine translation tool or some speech systems. So I think everybody is acquainted with this, because whenever we start communicating, this language is involved, and for all these language related activities you need to process. So all these things are now doing in computers. So this NLP makes it's possible for computers to read the text or hear some speech, interpret it, or measure sentiment. So many things you can do, but all somehow you need some kind of intelligence, or I can call some kind of processing, which done through means NLP. Whenever all this language comes, now why deep learning? So now many of you have heard, and every times we uh, listen, now everyone talks about this deep learnings. So okay, few years back all were talking about this machine learnings. So I'll not go into detail of this comparison. So mostly one thing I want to point is that, okay, so in machine learning, maybe it is, you can know the it is a subfield of learning representation of data, and exceptionally effective at learning the patterns. So most important thing is that how you are learning the patterns. And whenever deep learning come into pictures, always you means one thing you have to remember, that if you provide the, for example, any deep learning system you want to build, if you have lot of information, like if you provide the system of tons of information, it learns to respond in useful way. So that's why many times you heard about these GPUs or processing power, TPU. So all this come in terms of deep learning. So the idea, everything is boils down to this learning patterns. So for this learning patterns, the more the more deep or more it is effective, the more meaningful result you can get. That's why if you look into building whether machine translation systems or speech or anything, you find many times we use these deep learning systems. But the only thing you have to remember, it need lot of data and lot of processing power. Then only you can get good result in deep learning. Otherwise, as we know already, we are using with a small data set with the traditional machine learning, like a classification. So that is already there, I'm not telling. But now people are getting a good result, because now data are more, and we are this hardware resources and computing resources are also available. So people are able to get very good result using this. So So those are interested for these deep learnings, you have to consider these two things what I mentioned about a lot of data and a lot of processing there to get the best results. So in deep learning, there are many I can call many theories are there and many techniques are there. So I'll not go into more details. So some of the techniques deep learning which we applied in our use case, I'll try to highlight those. So in NLP particularly, in we tried this autoencoder. Autoencoder, maybe you, I don't know, means if you have some idea about this, I can tell you exactly. You can see the right hand side this image. So this we can call this is the left hand side. We are mentioning like a encoder, and right hand side is a decoder part. And this is your bottleneck layer, or we can call it representation layer. So assume you have a image. For example, if you are this autoencoder is nothing but a combination of both encoder and decoder. Where, for example, if you try to give a image, same image as an input and same image as an output. Now you try to, for example, assume you want to compress this particular image, and again you want to decompress it, and you try to know that how this learning happens, or the representation layer is made based on this loss. So that is the overall idea what I told. And mostly these autoencoders, they are using in image processing. And so why we choose this? But this autoencoder, they are not much means it is many means it is not been applied in NLP. So we tried, okay, can this autoencoder be useful in NLP for any of this task? So we have used in some of our use case, and I can explain like how you used and what are those results, whether really it is working or not. So as I mentioned, this autoencoder, they can discover low dimensional, less sparse and robust features for classifications. So, but we have used little variant of this autoencoder, which is called supervised autoencoder. So if you know this autoencoder, this is a little bit different. In a supervised autoencoder is that if you can see this Y, it is nothing but addition of a supervised layer, supervised, or we can call it as a addition of supervised loss on the representation layer. So it is when we try to addition of supervised loss to the autoencoder, so it will try to act as a regularizer, and it will help to get better representation layer and more effective for the desired task. So this why what you are saying here, it is nothing but your like output, for example, or I can call the target for if it is a classification task. So these are the targets. And so more details, maybe if you want, you can go through this paper. There is a paper in NIPS 2018 about supervised autoencoder, and but all this task has been done for image processing. So we try to apply in this NLP, because NLP, I think none of has applied this, and we never know how it works. So we thought, okay, let us try this, whether how it works on this NLP task. So we tried in several tasks, and I can produce some of the results. So so now this is all about the deep learning methods. Some of the deep learning methods which we have we are going to use, I'll explain. But now I'll go one by one as per the case studies. So I'll go first, starting with the machine translation. But again, all these supervised autoencoders which I have explained, I'll show you in the subsequent slides how we have used. So first case study is about machine translation. So I had everybody is using day-to-day life this machine translation, either Google Translate or Microsoft. So we try to build a machine translation for English to Odia. So I'll not go much details about the Odia language. Almost it is a Odia language. It's belonging to the Indo-Aryan branch of Indo-European language family, and it is one of the official 22 official language, and sixth language to be designated as a classical language. So it's a I can call this a Odia language. They have very rich in very rich in the literature. And actually, when we started this work, there was no Odia language has been included in the Google Translate. So that's why maybe some of them I think mentioned there is a demand for English Odia machine translation systems. But still, these machine translation systems, only one thing is that they need lot of data, which we called as a parallel corpus. So parallel corpus is something. I can tell you a simple example, like for example, assume for each of this English sentence, there will be a equivalent Odia sentence will be there. So that we call it as a parallel. And like so many sentences, it make a parallel corpus. So whenever you try to build any translation systems, it has to know, okay, for this kind of English, okay, what will be its equivalent Odia. So you need a parallel corpus. So when we started this work, okay, there will be no parallel corpus are available. So we first try to build. First we try to build a corpus for Odia. So we started for using Odian Corp 1, which contains only 30,000 sentences, and then again we built another Odian Corp 2 because we found the performance was not quite good, because only 30,000, okay, it doesn't produce you any meaningful output. Then we try to build extend it, but whenever we try to extend, okay, there is a lot of lot of challenges involved. For example, how to collect the data, so, or the source of the data. So these are the some of the sources. We try to collect the data from different sources. So data extraction from other online resources. So we try to get some data from online resources, and also taken some data from Wikipedia dump. So, and also we extracted some data from the OCR. OCR means mostly we are trying to collect such sentences, or for example any books or dictionary where there is an equivalent English to Odia is there. Like for example, many translation, if any Odia book is translated and it has both versions are available, Odia and English. Okay, we try to match whether it is, can the translation helps. For example, if we take some page of English and its corresponding Odia, and if we try to extract using OCR, and somehow if we can process this, or or manually correct it after this alignment, can it be work. So that also we tried. So, and also some of the uh, data we reuse from the existing corpus, for like already we have built our first version of Odian Corp 1.0. So we have taken those sentences, and also recently some of the data sets we can able to get from, there is a from PM India. Like if you know, when there is a PM India means Prime Minister's site is there. If you go, so you can find out that okay, all the that supports I think around 11 languages, 10 to 11 languages, where all of these statements from Prime Minister's office, that will be translated into different languages. So that is some of the Odia sentences also we have collected. So we, after collecting all the sources, we did some pre-processing. Definitely, for some of the pre-processing, we use some automatic tools, and for some of these, okay, it is very difficult. For example, like from OCR, even if you uh, collect from OCR, many times based on the image, it will either it will truncate some characters, or some characters will be misplaced, means wrongly it will be appears, and many jump characters also will be there. So all these things you need to do some pre-processing, and that for that actually we try to involve some human volunteers. And for some of the tasks, for example, like from Odia Wikipedia, when we collect some sentences, it will be in the paragraph. So those paragraphs we have filter it. For example, we splitted the paragraphs, and based on the sentences, uh, okay, we correct means we split it and try to do some alignment, sentence alignment tools. So these are the pre-processing. So we extract the plain text. So from the HTML page, okay, we do using some Python script. You can scrap the data from HTML page. For example, like in government side, some of the government side they have it's a government side, they have also English and equivalent ODI sentences are there. Okay, try to scrap the data, or from OCR already I explained. And for some of the paragraph we segmented into sentences based on English full stop or ODI Danda mark, or which we called is a ODI full stop. And we did some sentence alignment tools like Unalign. So now sentence alignment is like, for example, the many of these sentences which we collected from Wikipedia. For example, like one of the English sentence, there will be multiple ODI sentences will be there. So there will be not exactly one-to-one mapping. So though for those kind of scenarios, okay, we have to run some tool, so which can tell, okay, whether that will be one-to-one mapping or one-to-many. For, and if it is one-to-many, okay, how we have to split into. So for those, okay, we did some tools. So this is be the final data set. Okay, after getting all collected all the data, so this is like exactly the size of the data set, or how it looks, number of sentences, the tokens, and from where we collected. And mostly it covers many domains, whether Wikidata, daily usage learning, general and tourism information, literature, government policies, some of the Bible. So this is the statistics. So after we collect all the data and processed, okay, we split it into some training, development, and test set. So now it is around 1 lakh sentences we have collected. Then we split it into some training, development, and test set. And we try to make a baseline, because that is quite important. And this will be using some neural machine translation systems. We try to make some baseline. And so these are the some learning curves of the development set and test set. And this score, maybe I can just one line I can tell, this is the which we call it as a like Sacri-Blue. For example, we say that, okay, now you build the machine translation systems, but what about its performance? To measure the performance of the translation systems, we use some of the metrics which we called Sacri-Blue. So it is nothing but it will compare with your reference sentence with the output sentence, like how many word to word it is matched. And based on that it will get some score. So these are the, basically this is the scores. So still the scores were not very good. For example, I can say from English to ODI, so if you can call, okay, it will be around 6 or 9 to 10, 11 like this. But it was much better than the earlier. And now it is being used by many of these set as competition or others, they are using this data set. So so when we made, okay, we got, this is the baseline we produce. Okay, this is the 5.4 from English to ODI, or from ODI to English it was 9.2 in type set, or test set is 8.6. So these are some of the results we got. And this data set already we released. It's a use for free for research and non-commercial use. So anybody is interested, they can go through this link. It is already available at Lindert. With a license, so anybody can interested for research purpose can download and use, I think. And now many people they are using this data set, that is. And also we try to promote this data set. So to promote this data set, okay, we included this data set in one of the competition, which many people know. It is like seventh workshop on, means it is called workshop on Asian translation. So it is like a workshop where all the Asian languages take part, like English means English to Japanese, or English to Chinese, Korean. So most of the Asian languages will be there. And many institutions, research institution or companies, they take part in this, and they submit their result, and there will be some evaluation is there, and every times there will be they announce the winners. So in 2020 we included this English to Odia, and also in 2021 this our dataset also included in the Indic task, where it is included with all the Indian languages. So anybody is interested, they can participate also. I think now it is going on already, WT 2021. So that is like where they will provide you some data set, and you have to build your models to using those data set, and you have to submit the output. So also we participated last year, like just to see, okay, how we can use the data set and how it will be better, means how it performs. So this is our team which we participated last year, and using the dataset, yeah, we got this result, like we got around 11.07 for BlueSpure for this English to Odia. So this is the best competitors, and this is from Odia to English, and this is from best competitor. So maybe these scores are not much matter who doesn't know more into NLP. So I just gave some sample. So maybe sample will be more useful. For example, I try to took some few samples where it will be correctly translated, or it will be partial correct, or it will be incorrect translation. So maybe you can see like how it looks like. This will be the English source. I, I don't know, means if anybody means cannot read Odia, maybe you can check this gloss or remark, like or I have marked it as this red color, means where it is miscorrect. For example, from this to this, okay, which word is translation is not correct, or which is wrong. So this is the performance of our model, which we have built. This is from English to Odia. For example, if you can see here, this is a caretaker. So caretaker, okay, caretaker in Odia means from the English caretaker, it is not able to correctly translate it. It may just carrier. For example, maybe means there will be, it doesn't know exactly how to translate this caretaker. For example, same like this donator. Or this is some of the samples from Odia to English, where we okay, these are some correct translations. So here, for example, in partial correct, there will be some Odia word like Raja Harishchandra. So although it is able to translate correctly the sentence, but it could not translate this particular word Raja Harishchandra. So this Raja Harishchandra is missing in the English translation, or same from incorrect translation. It could not translate correctly this particular word Udruti Chinna, because these are the typical cases where the translation system fails. I think if you have the same experience with the Google also, because the day by day, if you add more data, and then it will help to better and better translations. But the idea is, what we are trying to do is that, okay, we try to build a data set, and which will be available freely for research purpose. Because if anybody want to build any translation system, it will be useful. Because this commercial, okay, you cannot, because the commercial, it is one of the problems is that whatever the data you submit to these translation systems, it will be go to their server directly. And so in, for example, if you have enough data or data sets are available, so anybody can build their own translation systems, and they can use this data for research purpose. Because that is the main issue now people are facing for low resource languages. Many of the NLP resources are not available, so we are trying to work on that direction. So we are releasing also in other data sets in multimodal. So, but I'll not go into those things. It will be not in the scope of this presentation. But yeah, so if anybody is interested, they can try the data set and build the systems, or participate in WAT, and use those for building translation systems. So next topic I'll cover about this text summarization. So in the text summarization, if you look, I'll just give you a briefly idea what is a text summarization. In text summarization, assume you have a text and uh, you try to build your model, or maybe for example in manual, if you take, okay, you try to generate the summary of that particular text. For example, now I have a paragraph or I have some text, I can get the summary of the text. And in the systems, okay, can we build such systems which can automatically do the summarization? So this is actually, but in our case, what we try to build, there will be two summarization systems are available. Means if you know, obviously, available. One is called abstract, one is called extractive summarization, and another is called abstractive summarization. In extractive summarization, okay, so mostly that will be a little bit, I can tell this is the traditional one where you have some text, and using the text, okay, you can from those original text you can uh, choose some of the word and build your summaries. But whenever you called abstract summarization, the word you produce in the summary, it those words may not be available in the original text. So that one will be like a more improved version. And for that, actually, you need this deep learning based methods and lot of data. Now, question is that where you get lot of data. Data means for training data. That means you have text and as well as some summaries will be available. So, okay, this is maybe for English, this is fine. You can get such data in a huge amounts are available, you can get it. But if you go to for other languages, for all the languages, same problem. So, this is we participated in one of the challenges like Swiss Text 2019 challenges. So the idea is like that they will give you 100,000 text as well as its summary for training, and 2,000 text for evaluation, and all these will be in a Swiss text. All will be in the Swiss German. So that is the task. So Swiss German means if anybody has means knowledge, you know that okay, in Switzerland they speak. There will be three languages mostly spoken. Like one is like French, another is German, and another is Italian. And in the Switzerland, they speak the German. It will be a bit different from the actual German, so which they call it as Swiss German. So it will be like I'll talk to that. It's like a dialect. How, for example, how we talk in Odia in different part of the Odia. For example, in Sambalpur or in Berhampur. So that is something similar, I can call. So here, so the task is okay. So now the challenge was that okay, how we can build a better model using only 100,000 data, because 100,000 data is not very enough for building this uh, deep learning based model. So here we try to apply some different approach, which is called synthetic data. So this synthetic data, it's a popular approach in machine translation for low resource condition to improve the quality. So same thing we try to apply in text summarization and see how whether it can work or not. So I think the first time I tried in 2019, and also we got very good result, and now many people are there also following in this same approach for text summarization. So the idea is, I'll give you in briefly what was my idea in 2019 when I tried. So so idea is like this. Okay, you have some real data will be there where there will be some text as well as some summary was given to you. Now what you can do, you try to build this model using reverse systems. Reverse system means like where your text will be as your summary, and sorry, your source will be as your summary and your target will be as a text. And once you build a model or a reverse model, then okay, then if you try to input any of the text, it will consider those text as a summary, and it will try to generate the equivalent text. Now, but those text and summaries are not what we can call not real. it will be like we can call as some kind of fake or synthetic, which we call. And but you can get at least some data, and those data you try to mix with the real data, now the real plus synthetic, and you try to put into the systems and see how it works. So this approach actually sometimes means it is a popular approach in a machine translation system, where you have not much data is there. We try to translate some data, means you try to use this back translation to generate some data to boost your performance of this model. So same thing we tried. so so we tried with a different experiment. So the so which already I explained, to generate the synthetic data, we trained the system is trained in reverse direction, that is source as the summary and target as the text, and the reverse system is used to generate the text for the given summary. Now the synthetic data is ready, mix the real and synthetic data and train the final system. So, this is the actually the data set. For example, for the training, we split it into 90K or development 5K, test at 5K, and evaluation is 2K is there. Now another 100K we generated as synthetic data. Then if we mix this 100K with 90K, so the dataset size was increased to 190K. And we build the vocabulary using the Swiss-Stick dataset. And so this is actually for the okay, for example, okay, you try to build the synthetic data, but what will be the input for inputting the text? Because you need some text which you can input the reverse model. So for the text, what we did, we build first a vocabulary using the Swiss-Stick dataset, like the most frequent German words. And from we select all the sentences based on the prepared vocabulary from the selected sentence, randomly we choose 100K, and this generated synthetic data will use to input to the reverse trained model. And so now if you look into this, will be like our original data, and after generating some synthetic data, okay, this will be the size of the model, size of the data set, and this we input to the model. And then yeah, means as to some of the performance I can show you. For example, like this is the learning curve. Steps, for example, okay, if you know these iterations, like for yeah, we use this transformer model where we run from 0 to 300K steps, and these are the road score. Like I was telling, the for metrics evaluating the metrics used for machine translation, like blue score, it will be there is something called row score. It will be also based on the comparison of your reference summary, for example, here the reference summary with the generated, so we can get some row score. So this will be the settings which I have already explained, setting 1 and setting 2. So if you can show that, okay, from setting 1 to setting 2, definitely, for example, in the test set 1, if we don't use any of these synthetic data, only the existing data, the scores were like 39.7 in rows F1 or and 39.7 and 22.9 in rows 2. So this can be improved from 39.7 to 55.7, and there will be a significant improvement in the summary. But what about the quality of the summary? That also we try to evaluate. Actually, as I told, there will be some SSA challenge. So many participants have participated. They also use different techniques. So this will be our score which we got from based on this S2. S2 means this one, the setting which we have used, and we have got in performance wise, it is a very good score. But they that year they didn't perform any human evaluation. So that is another aspect where we can tell, okay, whatever the summaries are generated, whether how much it will be meaningful or how much it is covered the text. So that actually only can be tell if you do some human evaluation, that they didn't. But performance wise, yes, it is it ran and it was working fine. So that is one of the approach can be used for other languages. Now people are also using for other languages where you have less data set is very less for summarization. Maybe you can use this approach or one of the approach for generating more data to input to your model. So, and next I'll go to some other case study. So the next case study is about language and dialect detection. So as I was mentioning, like this Swiss German. Mm. So I think this language and dialect detection, it is quite it will be very significant in Indian context. So here the idea is like that it is challenging to detect languages that have similar origin or dialect. For example, German or German dialect identification or Indo-Aryan language identification. So the dialect when we are taking, okay, for example, now can you build a system? For example, assume you try to build a systems in same ODI can be spoken in different ways. That means the written text is a same Odia, but it is spoken in differently. Sambalpuri or Barampuri. Uh, so in Kotaki means there will be different ways people are speaking. So can you able to build a model which can detect those? Because the written text is okay anyway. The way you are writing or the alphabets are maybe same, but okay, the way people are speaking is different. So that is also one challenging, and it may not be and that is also one challenging, and it may not be possible to distinguish related dialects with very similar phonemes and graphing inventories for some languages. So broadly there will be two issues there. One is that, okay, if you have several languages, so can you identify that particular language or not? And second is that, okay, if from this particular language, if that language involve different dialects, can you identify or not? So that will be the task. So here we tried, I think initially I was showing about this supervised autoencoder. So we thought, okay, we'll try to see whether it can be work. So this will be the proposed model or architecture which we are trying to do. So first, from the input text, we try to extract some of the features, means language features using some ngram. Ngram means, for example, I can say like 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. Okay, if it is either it can be character label or word label. If it is character label, okay, character from you can take each character 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 like this. So this is like just extracting the features, and those features, okay, we input to this supervised autoencoder. And also we use this Bayesian optimizer. So this Bayesian optimizer mostly we are using to selecting the optimal hyperparameters, because there will be many hyperparameter. How you know that, okay, which parameters are best for your performance evaluation? So for that, okay, you use this Bayesian optimizer. And the data set which we are using, actually three varieties of, because we wanted to try it for different languages, different dialect. So three data set mostly we used. For first one is about this DSL data set. So this DSL data set is contain 13 different languages based on 6 different language group. And so for example, here right hand side I have mentioned like southeastern Slavic or southwestern Slavic. So these languages are very close. For example, Bulgarian or Macedonian, Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian, Czech and Slovak. So so these languages are very close. And also we used another LinkedIn dataset where these languages are completely different, like English, French, Portuguese, Chinese, Mandarin, Russian, Hebrew. And also we took another dataset from Indian, that is called ILI dataset or Indo-Aryan language identification dataset, which has contains 5 closely related languages of the Indo-Aryan language family Hindi. For example, like in Hindi, like Khariboli or Braj Bhasha, Awadhi, Bhojpuri, and Maghai. So they are very close. So this data set contains all the varieties of Hindi, you can say. So and so we tried. So this will be the some of the parameter configuration which I have shown in the left hand side for the n-gram range or number of target. Target means the classes for DSL 14 or LinkedIn 10 or ILI 5. These are the embedding dimensions. So I'll not go through much details into these parameters. So this is the size of the data set, like training and development, and the test set size. So DSL in LinkedIn, there will be no development, and this is for ILI. And what we can got the result, final result. So in the test set, okay, for example, this LinkedIn data set where languages are completely vary, which I have shown like English, French, Portuguese, Chinese, because they are completely different. So it is able to 100%, it can able to classify it correctly. And for the DSL data set, I have shown where these are into different languages family. So it also we performed up to 92%, it was working fine. But for the last one, like the Hindi highlight data set, we are very closely for Hindi. So there actually we've it didn't although it performed well, but still there is some sometimes means, for example, it is not able to exactly classify. So but still the performance was quite good, around 85% we can able to find out. So where it fails, we also did some analysis. So we provide the confusion matrix like, so mostly if you look into the Hindi where it is failing, for example, like, because they are very close, so sometimes it didn't work. But for if languages are very different, okay, it was performed very well. If it is language family also, it is failed. But still I think there are scopes where you can people can find better model for building this dialect detection more efficiently. And also if somebody is interested, for example, I was telling, we try to build one data set in, for example, like in Odia, taking into different dialects of Odia. We are also working on that, because that also will be very effective for this dialect detection. The idea is like that if you go for building any software or tools for different different dialects, so at least you need some kind of data set to build your model and identify that, okay, this what is your exactly dialect. Then okay, you can, that one will be more useful for after that building the tools or software. So that is also one thing we are thinking. And means also already we are working on that. So this is about dialect data set. And next another case study, I'll go through it mostly about fake news detection. So in fake news detection, I think people already nowadays it is quite popular, and many people are facing day-to-day life in the internet, like many fake news are spreading across. So can we use this NLP for detecting this fake news? So this actually we have this work we done as part of one of the task or the challenge. The task was organized by this MEX A3T. So the goal was actually, this is they produce some real data, but those are in Mexican Spanish. So the idea is like that, the goal of Everlife is to encourage the research community to organize competitive text processing, understanding and generation task in order to define new research and challenge. So their idea is that, okay, can the NLP community build some tools which can detect such kind of fake news? So what they did, they built one data set, the organizers, from the newspapers, and they marked those as fake or not fake, and they built the data set, and they uh, uh, organize a shared task where people, they have given the data set and asked them to prepare their best model which can identify it is a fake or not fake. So it will be for me it is like more on the text and classification task. So they have different tracks, fake news detection or aggressive news detection. Uh, but the inputs are mostly Mexican Spanish. So because that is a quite challenging, and nowadays also it is many people they are working on this, because this fake news mostly, if you look into, they provide information and they aim to manipulate people for different purpose, either for terrorism or political election advertisements at there. And in social network also, many information extends in seconds, thousands of people. I saw many of the news now comes about this COVID, okay, what to do or what to not to do, or so many fake news are keep on coming. A fake news, so a fake news detection system, it can aims to help user to detect and filter out potentially deceptive news. So the idea is like that, okay, if you have some news, if you input, whether you can able to find out whether it is a real or fake. So we tried, but in this case, actually, the dataset was given to us. So this dataset is contains a 971 document, 676 for training and 295 for test. And these documents are real news extracted from different news media in Mexico. So they collected news and they identify and build this dataset. So mark it is fake or not fake. So and ask the participant to build their model and submit for evaluation. So here I'll now got into more details again, means into the implementation part. So what we try to do here, actually we try to use we try to use the supervised autoencoder, but actually for feature extraction it is Mexican Spanish. So we try to use this bot encoding. So I'll not go into bot details. So bot is something like where it will be just get some encoding for the text. So it's like word embeddings you can call, like where you can input some text and you can get some embeddings. And like the traditional for feature extraction, traditionally we are using like this character engram. So that is also one of the we can call models where you can get some features. And this combination, so we are trying to combine this bot encoding uh, with this traditional features which we extracted using character or word engram and input to this supervised autoencoder. So this is about bot encoding. I'll not go into more details. So if you are any interested, they can go through it. So this is like where you can input the text, and it will give you some embeddings. So we tried. So what we tried? Okay, we tried to collect the embeddings from this Beto, which is called bot for Spanish, and traditional engram features, and we concatenate, and those we try to input to this supervised autoencoders, and it works quite well. So if you can, I can show you the result for fake news detection. So we obtained so the some of the results we are obtaining here. I can show you, and we can got a very good result uh, using this approach. And there are many participants participated from several institutions, and we this year, means in 2020, we got the best systems. And last, not last, I think this is next. I don't know how much time I have. Can you please confirm how much time do you have?
Yes, yes. You have the time, huh? 2:54.
Okay.
Another 1 hour.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So. Okay, so fine. So already I think I have explained many of the cases where this NLP works. So now this one is a little bit different, means a little different So maybe I'll give you little bit idea like what is this operand motive detection and how we can use it. So operand motive detection is in the right hand side you can see some of the images, right? So these images are not means in a very different way if you look into these images. Uh, so sample images that are shown to the subject during the OMT test. Actually, there is something called OMT test. This is a real test happening actually in German. If you look into in German, like for some of their institution, this is a test they you have to give. For example, when the candidates go for some test, okay, apart from this technical test, there is a OMT test where some of the images will be shown to you, and you have to write something about looking at these particular images. You have to write something, and after writing your means your text, those text will be analyzed by some psycholinguistic means some we can call some linguistic expert, I can say, who has the means who has the psycholinguistic, who has the knowledge about the psychology and these linguistic features, and they will give you some grading or the score, and those scores will be used for admission, I can say. So, so what is the reason behind it? The reason behind it is that, okay, according to psycholinguistic theory, how we use the language reveals information about our personality traits, education level, age, etc. So what they believe is that, for example, how I am writing, it will be different from you, and means person to person it will be different. For example, how I use some of the word. Okay, so what I am thinking means the way I am writing, it will be maybe different from others, and they try to analyze those. There will be some what can call linguistic, means say, psycholinguistic dictionaries are available also. So based on those, they can study and they can provide you some scores. So uh, if somebody is interested, they can go more detail into that. So I'll not go into more details, but only as we participated, some of the overview we come to know, and while analyzing the data, we try to understand how what is this and how it works. So these operand methods are psychometrics, which are captured by having participant write free text associated with faint images, which I have shown. And this clinical research indicates that operant motives provide the possibility to access behavioral long-term developments. And based on that, the scores, how they assign, is like some of the labels like M for power, A for affiliation, L for achievement, A for freedom, and with the 0 and corresponding labels like 0 to 5, like M for 0 to 5, A 0 to 5, L 0 to 5, like this. So these are the this is something about operand motive. So what is the idea? The idea is like this. This is also we as part of this switch text we participated. The idea is like that. Okay, the organizers, they collected, means actually these are the real data. So after collecting all this data, so their idea is like that, can we make it a automate, means can we get this course automatically? Because now the idea is like, okay, they whatever the written text has been produced by this participant, that has to be go through some psycholinguistic, and they will put this gradings or the labels like M, A. So can all the entire process we can do it automatic or not? That was the idea. Although there will be some different other sides of this task, which many people they didn't like some ethical aspects. I will not go into those details, because many people they also feel that, okay, measuring your IQ and those things using some kind of systems is not a good idea, and many people they didn't like it. But anyway, this organizers have also told, okay, we are not into that thing, we are trying to just build some systems. So so anyway, that is, I'll not go into those things. But the I told the idea is like that, and the task is to predict the motivational style based on the text and the data set which they have provided. So it was for training around this is the size 167,200 and development 20,900, test for 20,900. So the data set was it was highly unbalanced. So so what we tried here actually, we tried different approaches. For example, we tried some simple transformer, some that is nowadays very popular. So so in the simple transformer, okay, we add an on-trained layer of neural on the end, and if you look into, because this is a classification task, because we need to find out one classify means one label at the end and return the model with OMT classification task at the output. So the so input will be like this in the transformer. If you look into, like CLS is like for means this is like for classification, SCP for separator. So maybe if anybody is interested can go through the architecture, so I'll not go into much details. So the idea is like that. Okay, what we did, we add an on-trained layer of neuron on the end and retrain the model with OMT classification task and use the maximum length parameter we set to 90 because this has a limit of 512, and models are retained up to 2 epochs. So 3 configuration we tried: bot, XLM, and digital bot. And also we tried this a fully connected layer. So fully connected layer with the this is paired with the representation of a textual description. So for textual description, we use this a pre-trained bot or fine-tuning bot. So nowadays, because this is very popular for getting this embeddings. And also we report the result using 2 distinct ways for building the sentence. Last hidden layer or concatenate of last 4 hidden layers. So maybe not if anybody interested, go through the paper. In the reference I'll show you like exactly more details about the experiment setups. And these are the hyperparameters which we did: number of layers 3, hidden layers 1, and the activation functions. And the methodology which we tried, we evaluate the performance using this deep supervised autoencoder in the OMT task. So our input features, so there whatever I have shown in the previous slides, so those are basically used for getting some features which we try to input to this supervised autoencoder. So we tried all the approach: German pre-trained and fine-tuned using this bot encoding, also the traditional character word and character engram, and combination of bot encoding plus traditional word and character engram. So all this we input to this supervised autoencoder, and we get the prediction. So this based on our score, okay, we found this like a simple transformer with a bot encoding that performed quite well. So we have given the result from all our configuration. Though the baseline was like a statistical vector machine with a TF-IDF, which is very standard and traditional. And we can see that how the performance got increased using simple transformer with the bot encoding. And yes, actually this means when we submitted, actually we got I cannot say best, but we got the second best score. So but there will be very minor difference, like from 0.704 to 0.698. So but still, yeah, this whatever the this method is worked quite well with particularly this feature extraction feature extraction using bot with the simple transformer. And and I think this is will be my last case study. So this case study, actually currently we are working in this project. The project actually which generally we are working here in India. So this is about this crime investigation. For example, how this NLP works in a crime investigation. So there will be very big projects running here where like EDF, we are the coordinators for this FCTH 2020 project. If anybody is interested, they can go through the details about this Roxanne U project. So this project actually about how we can do this crime investigation using different technologies, like, or we can call it as a mix of technologies. Like here NLP is just a part. For example, like we have a speech technology or NLP or some network. For example, this will be mostly against the crime investigation. And more now, what we are trying to do is like, I think, about child grooming. Child grooming, if you know, like in online, many people means nowadays it is quite common. Like in child grooming, kids are spending much of the times in online, and many people means many times these predators, or we can call the persons, for example, they try to communicate with the child, ask for their personal information, ask for their photos, then slowly they start sending them indecent messages, asking them some request, meet at person, means this kind of crimes happens. It's quite common. I think it is in India, or means it's in everywhere. So how we can detect that? So for that, actually, now we are working on that, for example, in child grooming. So how this NLP methods can be used. So potentially many NLP technologies we are using, not only for the child detection, also for criminal investigation, like entity detection or topic detection, or where, for example, the idea is like that. For example, from this online contents, when we are this chat messages, assume there will be chat messages from one predators with some child or children, or we got those messages. From those messages, we are trying to analyze the topics, what particular topics they are talking about, and we are trying to build one model. That model can particularly tells whether the chat conversation means involves some kind of predators or not. So, or the particular persons who is, for example, from the chat messages, we can identify that person and see whether that person is a, means it's a victims or he's a predators. So those kind of things we are trying to detect. And but here, like some not always the chat messages are there. Sometimes we get some speech. From speech, okay, we can uh, uh, we can transcribe those into different text format, and from those text also we can analyze. So for example, I can show you some of the example, like in entity detection also we are trying to do, where there will be text is there, it can identify what is the entity, whether Saarland University, okay, it's an organization, this is a German, this is a or this is a person. So what is the, so and from this entity detection, then we are trying to do some kind of topic. So for example, okay, if this particular chat is talks about what, whether it is talking about in crime investigation particularly, whether if somebody is trying to set up one meeting, okay, you can come to this text include, okay, we can meet at this particular place at this particular time. Okay, maybe we can identify this as a possible topic, that meeting, or they are talking discussing about some drug dealing. Or for example, in chat messages, some predator is asking, okay, how old are you, or for example, like can you open your dress. So for such kind of things, okay, we can identify, okay, what topics they are talking about, and we are building the model where we can predict, okay, these chat messages are involved some predator content, and this will be the predator. So those things we are doing some research, and also we are building the model. So maybe actually, due to time constraint, I cannot go through those details of this, but yes, this is one of the area where we are applying this NLP based technologies. And at the end, from the observation, what we found, we can say, okay, this supervised autoencoder with the Bayesian optimization for language detection task, we found quite effective for discriminating between very close language or dialects. And also, the supervised autoencoder, we found it can able to organize well. However, they seem to perform better on text extracted from formal text. So that what is our observation. Like in fake news detection, the best performance document extracted from real news media. And but one thing we want to highlight is, okay, these supervised autoencoders are less computationally expensive as compared to attention-based deep learning models uh, like transformer, and they do not require high volume of data. And also, if there are plenty of data, then fine-tuning of previous attention-based deep learning models is an immediate and promising solution, which we found in the OMT task. And also, we'd like to some of the future work where we are trying to deal is like we'd like to evaluate the impact of hyperparameter tuning in supervised autoencoder, and also test this supervised autoencoder on other NLP tasks, because we tried on. I have given some of the tasks like fake news detection or language detection. So some of the tasks already we tried. See some other tasks whether how effective it is. That is also you want to evaluate. And also we are also working, as I have told you, try to build one dialect detection dataset in Odia where we can which can be useful for this particular dialects. And also we try to extend this corpus which already we built and using with more sentences. So it can be used for more research and build a better model. So and yeah, I think almost I have done. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. So these are the actually references. I have given the paper references to go through it. So, and if you have any queries, either you can mail me or you can discuss. So because I have shown many of the tasks, because I don't think that I have done everything, because we have a teams. So so most of the credit goes to them. Like we are working in a lot of collaboration work. so so thanks to some of the students and my supervisors and my co-workers, my colleagues. So mostly we work. So so yeah, so I am just presenting, but the credit goes to them. Yeah. So thank you for listening. So I think we have some time for question answering.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, you can ask your question. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, why do we use the term auto encoders and not only encoders? Is there any difference or?
Uh, yeah, actually there is not much, means there is only one difference, which if you remember, maybe I can show you. Actually this in autoencoder only means actually what we are using, like, so it's called a supervised autoencoder. Autoencoder also means you can also use, I'm not telling. So the thing is that, okay, already we are working most of the label data. So, and if you look into this Y, actually this will be in supervised autoencoder. The idea is like that, okay, this will be an addition of a supervised loss. So the idea is like that, okay, if you try to add this particular supervised loss, so it can so this addition of supervised loss, there will be two loss. One will be like your reconstruction loss, and there will be your supervised loss. So the idea is like that, okay, if you add the supervised loss, then it will act as a regularizer, like L2 regularizer, or where we can use some of the dropout, and it can improve your performance. So this idea actually used in NIPS in one of the papers. So we just try to follow, because already we have the label data. So we thought, okay, how we can utilize this. Because mostly these autoencoders, they are using in speech or these images, but for NLP we follow this one. And we found it is already, I have, I think, given enough examples, means in the case studies how it behaves. So the only difference what I mentioned, you can see in the diagram, that is the just addition of this supervision loss.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So hope I'm clear
Any,
up to extent.
any other question? Because we have time also, we can discuss. Any questions here?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, sir, here in supervised autoencoder, it is, I mean, what do you mean by supervised loss? But, I couldn't
Actually,
get that.
this supervision loss. Actually, we are if you look into there, we are adding another target layer. For example, or we can call the target class will be as an extra input to this. We are adding to the representation layer. So we can load that. Okay, for example, what will be your means you can means you can compute the supervision loss like okay you know what will be your whenever you are in each time step, whenever you are doing this, okay, you can find out okay what exact loss it got. For example, when you in each epoch you can find your this reconstruction loss, and also as you have added these particular labels you can find some supervision loss. So this supervision loss, actually this is nothing great. So only thing is that if you input this particular supervision means target and obtain the supervision loss, it only helps you to for example do a better representation layer, or acts as a better regularizer. For example, when the number of layers will be gone increasing, so in the first diagram you saw, okay, that will be just one hidden layer. So hidden layer will be maybe one or many hidden layers you can do, and your network will be grow. So maybe okay, for some of the things you need to using this loss, maybe you can drop out some of the nodes, or we can call some of the network in the from the network something you can truncate it, so that the performance will be boost your performance. So that means and you will get a better representation layer. So that is the idea. Means otherwise, if you look into nothing much in this, except it will be just like your exact supervised autoencoder. So only thing is that we actually what I have told you in the beginning also. This is the first time we tried in the NLP, because I don't know means why people have never thought, or nobody tried. Uh, but maybe actually maybe there will be nobody has idea whether it can be work or not, means in this particular field. So although we never after so many papers and so many results what we have produced, although peer reviewers also like this particular idea, means they nobody has any bad feelings about this is not a good idea or something. Means they say okay, this is a okay, that is just another aspect which or another method, deep learning method can be suitably used in an NLP task. So yeah, so for example, although we have not explored in more actually we never try to change any of this architecture. So if you are more interested, if somebody has more interested, so maybe you can provide some new suggestion, or try to make more suitable for NLP or some other task, or build try to change this particular architecture. That will be, I think, definitely will be a good idea. So one thing I can say is that actually the code already we have released the code in the paper. So if you anybody is really interested, so they can just download the code and run it. So in our paper already we have mentioned the GitHub link. So the code is available quite well, and already we have tested in both CPU as well as GPU version. uh, so you can welcome, means you can to explore the things.
Sir, here while extracting the information for decoding, for encoding, suppose there are 10,000 paragraphs. Suppose there are some paragraphs. n times of paragraph, and while processing the algorithm, it consumes some time. So in future, or in present, this supervised autoencoders, are they reliable on the optimizing the processing time, or just manually line by line encoding the paragraphs?
Uh, actually, actually it depends on the task. For example, most of the task which we have tried, we have first actually we have spent some time on for example, like getting this embeddings, getting the embeddings or some features. So we spend some time on that. So for example, if you want to apply on the text, if your text contents are more, so I suggest, okay, you spend some time to see that, okay, how we can get better embeddings, or you can get means you can get prepare your dataset in such a way that you can provide a better input to the supervisor autoencoder. But definitely from our observation, it is a we tried with many bigger dataset also, and it works well. And only thing we have changed, like during the implementation of the code, we try to make it as a batch wise. For example, okay, same for some of the very bigger data set, okay, we found some issue, it is for processing speed, for processing. So we try to make it an input as a batch wise manner. But yeah, still it is working. But definitely you have to spend some time on your feature, means how you can get uh, prepare your better feature to input to this supervisor encoder, I can say. But yeah, it will work. I think there will be no problem in that. Only thing is that with supervised autoencoder, if we do this Bayesian optimizer which we are using, like to obtain the best parameters, that will take some time, because if you use the Bayesian optimizer, it will try to go through all the search space to find out the best parameters. So that one will definitely take some time, but at the same time, the output will be uh, means performance also will be better. So yeah, that only I can say.
Sir, can you please differentiate between the deep learning and the neural networks? Are they similar or part of neural network?
No, actually, if you look into actually if you look into actually in deep learning, nothing is there. You can I can say that, okay, these neural networks are there. Only thing is that it will be very dense representation. For example, you can see you can assume that, okay, there will be more layers with more, means more layers of networks will be there, and where you can more means you can do more training, and the representation will be more better. But at the end, everything will be same. I can, means for me, what I can say, everything will be boils down to only these vectors, nothing else. But it will be like maybe it will be in a more dense form.
It means that the supervised autoencoders are just like a hash function, isn't it?
Uh, um, uh, uh, in means which sense you are telling, it will be.
I mean, while the process of encoding and decoding,
Ah,
it seems similarly for the
yes,
hash
yes,
function.
yes,
Acha.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so any other question from the from other students?
Yeah, so maybe I can means give some suggestion. Okay, this is a, for example, this autoencoder in our case we just use as a tool for this NLP task. So maybe you can also think little bit in a higher level, like what is the NLP task you want to perform. So for us actually we are not focused much on this particular transformer model or simple transformer or autoencoder. For us actually we look at those particular tasks and we try to choose a better tool which can be performed better. So it is not like, for example, if you look into our experiment, we tried many different deep learning methods, not only supervised autoencoder. Like sometimes we use transformer, sometimes we use a better embedding, and that also works. For example, for for all the tasks, supervised autoencoder didn't perform well, and for some of the tasks, this transformer-based model that also didn't perform well. So mainly whenever you are going for any NLP applications, so looking at this particular task and the data, first you have to go through the data and the task, then you decide, okay, how we can deal with that. And these are, I think, better to use just as a tool.
Sir, autoencoders uses some mathematical functions for encoding or some characters from, I mean,
Yeah,
some characters or mathematical.
yeah, there is some mathematical functions are there. So I can suggest to go through this maybe this paper. There will be paper on this NIPS supervised autoencoder, Lei et al. And NIPS 2018. So that will be, you can get all the details. So actually, I didn't include this mathematical equation like supervised loss and this loss. Actually, intentionally I didn't do, because otherwise means it will be go into more details into explaining or discussing the equation rather than focusing on the NLP part. But yeah, definitely you can go through it. So I think it will be more maybe more interesting for you. And if you think, okay, some of these you can learn through these particular equations, and if you try to do this means change any of this architecture or make it the performance more better, I think definitely there is scopes, because I think this is not much very old. So this started in 2018, and when we tried into NLP, I think we are the first to include this for this NLP. So I think definitely you can try.
Thanks.
Okay, so any other question? Because we have learned 6 different varieties of problems on natural language processing. Any 6 different case studies yes, discussed. If you have any doubt in other case studies, any of the case studies also you can ask.
Yeah, definitely you can means any of the case studies in or in general problems, or or you want to, for example, which of the case study you are interested, or any NLP related topic you are interested, maybe you can ask not only. Because I just chosen some of the case study. Actually, there are many other NLP case studies, and also we are working in many others NLP task, NLP or speech or other task also means. But yeah, if I can able to answer, I'll be happy.
Is
And
there any
also, I think,
question?
so I think there will be also some NLP summer school. I think some information also I have shared. So if anybody is interested, they can register and means and participate. And maybe if somebody is interested on or any NLP related collaboration, maybe you are welcome to write me.
So I have hello.
Yes.
Yes,
Dr.
Sudhan.
Parida, if you can, so if you can say something how to go for any PhD program to our students, that will be more useful for our students actually. Any
Yeah,
idea about how to go for PhD program?
yeah, actually for PhD you have to, there will be from in EDF side already there will be some section for position openings. So that is actually most of the projects what we do means people are doing here, that will be funded by some project. So those projects are like some projects are completely research or some of the like from industry with some industry partners. So we work mostly with the many of these companies. If you know, many companies they have some collaboration with work to do some research. So fundings are from there also, and also apart from that, many fundings from these European agencies like H2020 or some other European agencies, funding agencies. So the idea is like that. Okay, people, students, they do the PhD. They do all their research work here at EDF, and they get their degree from the EPFL, because EPFL and EDF we have means already the collaboration. So they get their degree, means their registration and everything will be from EPFL, and they get the degree from EPFL and they work here. And they can select the guide, for example, some of the guide from here, and some guides are there from EPFL. So all the details are there in the page, means openings. So they have to prepare the applications and send. Then there will be interviews are there, and if they found means good and best, they have already done some research work, and I think that will be more advantage if you have only some research experience, because nowadays okay it will be very difficult to for example only theory is not enough, for example, or your mark sheet is not enough, I can say, because there will be different means all over world they have their own education systems. I think although mark is a good means up to okay to judge particular persons, but for this kind of PhD or research, actually more focus is towards your motivation towards research, or what already you have done in some research work. Have you done in some research publications, or if it is not publication, also you have some experience or done some work or not. So that will be also a more added value. So I can say, and also we do some internship, like where means apply some of the internship where people can come and do spend some time, like 3 to 4 months for some projects. So that will be based on this advertisement, means all the openings are there, like a PhD or postdoc or sabbatical. So there will be time to time there are openings are there. So I'll suggest go through this website edf.ch to check the details. Yeah, but
Thank you.
still,
Thank
yeah,
you.
still if any information is required, feel free to mail me. I can definitely answer.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other question? I think Sar is also with us. Professor Sudarshan Padhi sir is also with us. I think Sarah joined. Sir, are you there? Hello. Okay. Okay, so if there is no question, I think we can stop. For MSc Data Science students, Sir is with us. Sir, namaskar, sir.
Sir, namaskar.
नमस्कार नमस्कार
बहुत दिन पर देखा.
I'm happy to see you here.
Sir, you can
I hope
Sir
sir
was
has
saying something.
Yeah, I hope sir has attended the session and maybe if give some feedback, it will be nice, or some suggestion.
Actually, we have a course here in MSc Data Science. Those students are here, already joined, both first year, second year, and BSc Mathematics and Computing. These are the two courses. They are in the Institute of Mathematics and Applications. For MSc second year student, they have a course that natural language processing. And today's lecture, I think this is the first lecture for them in NLP. So with these 6 different case studies, they must have got some overall idea of what is this NLP things, different problems you have discussed here. Then in detail, probably they will read in their course. So they will again gain some knowledge. Then I think they can ask you, at any time they can mail you, they can ask you some questions. That is also, then because they have learned many that deep learning approach, that data science students, I am saying, the second year students, they have also the final year project. Team projects are also here. Probably they will be sending us their titles and the topics. If some of them are interested in NLP, I think they can contact you also. Is there any scope to
Yes,
this carry project?
yes.
While they are
So, so anybody, anybody is interested.
So online mode, can they start any this particular project?
Yes, I think if somebody is interested for in any project in NLP, so definitely they can contact, and maybe we can guide at least, no problem. Means we can discuss and give some task they can do parallelly. Means we can discuss, communicate, and discuss, no problem. Because now actually we are doing in many actually most of the works we are doing in collaboration with many students from different places. So I think it's okay, no problem. But only thing is that they have to spend some time and in this NLP, and they have to do some experiment and collect the data. So those things are there, obviously. But definitely, they can make no problem. So I think the slides, I'll after the presentation I'll share the slides, so where all the details and the contacts are there. So anybody is interested, they can contact, no problem.
Yes. Or actually BSc third year students also, they can, some of them, if they are interested, they can also work on this NLP problems.
Yeah.
I think if there is no other question, I think let us conclude. Let us thank our guest speaker.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to you, and also seeing each other after a very long time, particularly to Swadhin sir. I can say namaskar to sir. And anyway, we are not able to see each other, but at least through Zoom. Actually, this is one medium where we can see each other after a long time and talk and discuss. Yeah, it's really a pleasant and happy moment for me.
Thank you for sharing your time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now then.
Samarth, let's unmute your speaker and clap. So that will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.